Neo was a small kitten with bright eyes, rescued on a rainy night. His fragile meow seemed like a desperate plea for a home. He had been found in the midst of an unrelenting storm, hiding under an old cardboard box that offered little protection from the rain. His fur was soaked, and each drop that dripped seemed to take away a little more of his strength. The meow was weak, almost swallowed by the sound of heavy raindrops on the pavement, but it carried a clear message. He needed help. It was then that Clara walked down that street. She was sheltered by a red umbrella, but when she heard that delicate sound, she stopped. She looked around, trying to locate where it was coming from. Her eyes found the small creature shivering. Without hesitation, she knelt down, extended her hand, and Neo, though scared, approached, as if he knew this was his chance to change his life. As she held him, Clara whispered, "You are safe now." The kitten didn't know that this simple gesture of trust would mark the beginning of an extraordinary bond, where love and technology would intertwine in a surprising way. At home, Clara set up an improvised bed with a soft towel in a quiet corner of the living room. Neo, after being rescued, still seemed wary, but at the same time, curious. He explored the environment timidly, sniffing every corner, as if trying to understand where he was, and more importantly, what this new life meant. Little by little, fear gave way to curiosity, and he began to get used to the sounds, colors, and smells of his cozy new home. Clara watched her new friend with affection, enchanted by every little movement he made. But there was something that caught Neo's attention more than anything around him. It was Clara's cell phone. Every time she picked it up, the screen lit up the room, creating colorful reflections that danced in the air. Neo would become mesmerized, his big eyes following the movements of the images, and occasionally, he would approach the screen, trying to touch it with his delicate paws. The phone seemed to have a magical power, something that made Neo forget any fear or discomfort. He observed intently, as if the device were a window into a new world where anything was possible. Clara, on her part, found it amusing to see the kitten so fascinated. Sometimes he would remain still for minutes, as if immersed in this new universe, his eyes fixed on the lights flashing on the screen. More and more, Neo started to get closer to Clara's phone. He didn't understand what those images meant, but something inside him drew him to it, as if he already knew this little object could be more than just a common item. He saw it light up, making sounds that caught his attention, and it seemed to have a life of its own. For the little kitten, it was pure magic. It's turning into a really cool story, isn't it? Leave a comment and let me know what you think. Don't worry, stay with me because the story is still going on, and there's lots of exciting stuff coming up. One afternoon, as Clara sat on the sofa browsing through social media, Neo, as usual, watched the cell phone with great interest. He was already more at ease in the house, and his curiosity had intensified. His little eyes followed the movements on the screen, absorbing the images and sounds coming from the device. Clara, distracted, didn't realize what was about to happen. With his typical feline energy and the determination of an explorer, Neo jumped onto the sofa and, with an impressive skill for such a small kitten, reached the cell phone. The device was resting there, on a cushion, with the screen facing up. It wasn't the first time he had tried to interact with it, but this time, something different happened. With his delicate paws, Neo touched the screen. Clara, not expecting it, saw a light flash on the screen and heard the sound of a notification. Instead of just watching, the kitten, now more involved, began to touch the screen more frequently. It was as if the cell phone had become an irresistible toy. But it wasn't just an ordinary toy, it was an invitation to something that he didn't fully understand yet. But that was there, right in front of him, waiting to be discovered. The screen flashed, and to Neo's surprise, something moved. A colorful bird appeared on the screen, with bright and vibrant feathers hopping from side to side. It was a simple game, but for Neo, it was the most fascinating show. The bird seemed to be floating right in front of him, and his paws moved instinctively, trying to touch the screen. He meowed occasionally, as if trying to tell the bird to stop flying, or maybe trying to communicate with it in some way. With each movement of the bird, Neo took another step in his hunt. He even bit the screen with his mouth, almost as if trying to hold on to the bird that moved back and forth. He spun in circles, trying to catch the virtual object with the energy of a hunter at his best. Clara watched everything from a distance, unable to hold back her laughter. She knew it was just innocent fun, but the scene was absolutely adorable. She decided to pick up her phone and record that unique moment. With the phone in her hand, Clara filmed little Neo, his eyes fixed on the screen and his agile paws tapping the surface of the device. She couldn't stop laughing, seeing Neo's concentration, as if he was determined to capture the bird. The sound of his paws softly tapping the screen and his occasional meows were the only sounds filling the room. Clara felt so grateful for that simple yet lively moment. It was as if the kitten was silently telling her that he was adjusting to his new life, his new home, and starting to have fun and explore. As Neo continued his search, something unexpected happened. The cell phone vibrated, sending a notification, and the sudden sound made Neo jump back in surprise. He had been so focused on the screen that the abrupt noise made him pull away and look at Clara with wide eyes. He had never experienced that sound before, and the shock was enough to make him retreat a little. The little kitten stepped back from the screen, but when he looked at Clara, his eyes sought comfort. He knew that, at that moment, she was there to protect him. Clara laughed softly at Neo's reaction. She moved closer to him, gently stroking his head, and said, "You're okay, my love. You don't need to be scared." Neo, still a bit confused, snuggled into her arms, seeking refuge in her lap. He closed his eyes for a moment, recovering from the shock, and nestled in even more, seeking that warmth and affection only Clara knew how to give. As the kitten rested in her lap, Clara continued to film what was happening. She knew that these simple moments, full of emotion, were what truly mattered. Neo, the little rescue kitten, was now in a safe place, and more than that, he had found something that fascinated and challenged him. Clara looked at the cell phone, watching the video of Neo trying to capture the virtual bird, and felt her heart warm. She knew that, in some way, that little kitten, so fragile at first, was already becoming an essential part of her life. The cell phone, which had once been just a tool in her everyday life, had now become a link between them. Neo, who had once been found alone and scared, was now embracing the magic of technology and affection, forming a deeper bond with Clara. Clara smiled as she looked at the video, gently touching the screen. She knew that this small moment of fun and enchantment reflected much more than it seemed. It was how little things transform into great memories, and no matter how simple it was, that moment shared between them, marked by Neo's curiosity and Clara's patience, was one of life's greatest gifts. But what truly touched Clara's heart at that moment was realizing that, no matter how much technology had its place, it wasn't the true protagonist of the story. It was the bond, the silent connection between a human and a little kitten who together were beginning to build a story of love and learning, with the promise that no matter what happened, they would always be there for each other. And deep down, this true, unbreakable connection was far more than any notification or screen glow could offer. Hey, are you enjoying this story? That's so cool. Let's keep going, but before we do, I noticed you haven't left a like on this video yet. It's really important because that way, YouTube will keep showing you our cute kitten stories. And with that, we'll keep bringing you more exciting stories. So don't forget to leave your like, okay? Thanks. That night, the silence of the house was only broken by the soft sound of a fan in the background, and the gentle purring of Neo, who was now peacefully sleeping in Clara's arms. The little kitten, after a day full of discoveries and adventures, had finally found peace. His eyes, once so curious and alert, were now closed in a deep and serene sleep. Clara, watching her new friend rest in her arms, couldn't help but smile. She observed each calm breath of Neo, feeling that something very special had happened that day. It wasn't just the fact that he had been enchanted by the cell phone, or that he had been startled by the unexpected vibration. It was the simple fact that he was there, with her, becoming part of her life in a way she had never imagined. Clara, still gently stroking Neo's little head, took her phone once again and watched the video she had recorded. The images of Neo, with his focused eyes and little paws tapping the screen, brought a soft and bittersweet laugh. She couldn't help but wonder how such a small being, who once needed rescue and care, now brought so much joy to her life. The video captured the essence of everything that had happened: the kitten's fascination with technology, the shock he had with the notification, and finally, the relief and trust as he sought Clara's embrace. It was a simple memory, but full of meaning. Clara took a deep breath, feeling a wave of gratitude fill her chest. She knew that, more than anything else, Neo had shown her a deep truth, that the small moments of connection and affection were the ones that truly mattered. Daily life could be busy, full of responsibilities and challenges, but those moments when she allowed herself to simply be present, sharing space with a being she cared for with all her love, were the most valuable. Life had become richer and more meaningful with Neo's arrival. He had filled a void that Clara hadn't even known existed. As she watched the video one more time, her eyes filled with emotion. It wasn't just because of what the video represented, but because of what it symbolized. Neo wasn't just a kitten playing with a cell phone. He was the embodiment of what she needed most at that moment. A true, simple, and pure friendship. He had brought a new perspective into her life, showing that often, the greatest joys come from the simplest things. Clara knew that, by Neo's side, she could face any challenge, because she had a loyal friend who, even without words, communicated through the most innocent and loving gestures. Neo's sleep was peaceful, and Clara, with her heart warmed by an unexpected love, settled next to him. She couldn't avoid the thought that the future was full of promises, of new discoveries, and moments that would certainly warm her heart. But for now, she was content to simply be there, in silence, with the little kitten asleep in her arms. That night, Clara realized that the real magic wasn't in the cell phone or the bright images on the screen. The magic was right there, beside her, in the simple act of caring, in the soft touch of her hands stroking Neo's fur, and in the bond being formed between them, a bond that didn't need words, only presence. And while the kitten slept, she knew that this moment, this little act of affection, was what would truly make all the difference in their lives. And so, Clara smiled once more. She knew that with Neo, every moment would be special. Because sometimes, true happiness lies in the simplicity of the purest gestures. Clara's life, now transformed by Neo's presence, was filled with a joy she never imagined she could experience. And with one last look at the little kitten, she also fell asleep, knowing that her life would never be the same again. The small things, like a kitten's meow or the glow of a cell phone, were the ones that mattered most. And Clara, with her heart full of love, knew she had found something rare and precious. True companionship and unconditional love that only a four-legged friend could offer. What did you think of this story? Tell us in the comments and share which part you liked the most. I loved when the little kitty, Neo, was in Clara's arms, all cuddly and happy. How about you? Which part made your heart beat faster? If you liked this story, don't forget to leave a like and tell everyone. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing adventures of our cute little cats. Comment below and tell me what you think. Your opinion is really important to us. Come join our group of cat lovers and help spread smiles and cuteness around.